These are words of today's Holy Gospel, in the name of the Father, the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Once upon a time, when I used to take vacations, someone gave me a few days free up in Maine at a place called Cliff House. I don't know if you've ever heard of Cliff House. I think it's in York, Maine, not far from where the Bushes have their house. I think somewhere in that neighborhood. So you know it was a ritzy neighborhood. Very nice place, let me tell you. It was right on the ocean. It was on a big cliff looking over the ocean. It was marvelous. Things to do, beautiful things to see. And of course, I love being by the ocean. My room had a little balcony that looked right into the ocean. It was wonderful. But I have to say that the high point for me every day while I was there was breakfast. Breakfast, which says a lot about my social life, I suppose. But let me tell you something. In addition to an egg chef who would prepare eggs any way you could think of, this guy had about 60 copper frying pans in front of him, and he would prepare the eggs right in front of me, putting on quite a show. In addition to him, there was this buffet that was 30 feet long. I measured it. I walked through to see. Imagine a buffet for breakfast alone, 30 feet long. Well, let me tell you, there were things that I had never heard of before, things that were out of this world. They were exotic things. There were things that were just so spectacular that I would go to bed thinking about that buffet, and I would wake up anxious to get to breakfast, and then after breakfast was done, I kept thinking about the next day of breakfast, which, as again, tells you about my social life. It was spectacular. It was really the most spectacular buffet that I had ever seen. It was not a place for a diet, I'll tell you, but it was a wonderful breakfast. And as I say, the high point of my day. Well, for me, today's gospel is like that buffet because there are so many wonderful things to try, so many good things to think about. Now, I know that most of you are very tired, I can see, because you had to get up a little bit earlier, although I think there are some people here who normally have come to the 8 o'clock class and you didn't remember to set your clocks ahead, did you? But at any rate, I could go on for a long time about this gospel because there are so many things. It's like that 30-foot buffet, but I'm only going to pick two. I'm going to have mercy. I'm going to only pick two things to talk about, even though it was difficult to settle on those two things. The first thing that strikes me, and that is, I think, a delicious item in this gospel, is that Jesus gives Peter, James, and John a little tiny nanosecond glimpse of the wonder of heaven. Do you notice that? Sometimes we pass over that. You know, we think about so many other things, but that's what's happening here. Peter, James, and John are having a quick glance at heaven. And you notice how they react? They are in awe, speechless, confused, and terrified just from that glimpse of Jesus, Moses, and Elijah clothed in their eternal glory. They only see a flash of glory for barely a few minutes, and it becomes a mental overload. Their human minds can't process the splendor and the majesty. And that gives us a minute taste of what waits for us. They only saw a flash of glory. Imagine. And they were confused. Peter's babbling about building tents, of all things. He doesn't know what to say. They roll over. They're terrified. They're confused. They're in awe. They're overjoyed. And it's too much. Their brains are snapping because of just that little tiny glimpse of eternity. That's something to think about. Heaven is something to think about. And this is what's happening in this gospel. A glance is when the apostles hear the voice of God say to them, "This is my beloved Son, listen to him." You know, I think if you read that gospel carefully, the apostles pass out at this point. And then they wake up and only Jesus is there. It's too much for them. I mean, they're seeing this glory, they hear the voice of God, they just can't take it, they pass out. They don't see anything, they're not conscious of anything more. But that statement, "This is my beloved Son, listen to him," that becomes an affirmation of who and what Jesus is, and at the same time, it is a command for us to understand that Jesus is our ultimate authority, the ultimate power, the ultimate force, the ultimate sovereign, our ultimate Lord. The voice of God is powerfully telling us that. But that point makes me wonder, what exactly are we to understand by that statement, "Listen to him"? Specifically, what does it mean? I think that it means that you and I are to follow Jesus, that we are to obey Jesus, we are to always walk with Jesus in all that we